We need a new approach to security. We've talked about the importance of a zero trust approach. We published an architecture that is a zero trust architecture designed specifically for media creation. It's called CSAP. Obviously security is super important to you. How are you looking at this as another transformation, moving from perimeter-based security to zero trust and ultimately CSAP?
We're in a world now where security is of utmost importance, especially when people are working in distributed ways. And as you said exactly, Rich, perimeter-based security is not going to work. It will for certain things, but it's not going to work for most things that we need to do. We as an industry have a lot of work to do to really get to zero trust. We're working it. We are starting to implement this principle in our products and looking at your architecture with CSAP. This is something we are working towards, and so we completely agree with the vision.
I keep coming back to this idea of more things are possible once you connect the data, because one of the things about security too is the easier it is to manage, the more secure things will be, because things won't get dropped on the floor. So when we start to think about connecting all this data and we start to think about least privilege, you can look at, well, if we can connect sort of like the task management data, for example, that we have in ShopGrid, and you're attaching that to sort of the centralized security mechanism of permissioning in an asset management system, you can start to get like really granular and say, well, this artist doesn't have access to this asset. This artist has access to this asset while they are assigned this task. And once they're no longer assigned to the task, they don't need it anymore. That's something that could be completely transparent in the future.
We agree that it's not just about perimeter security anymore. You have to move towards a zero trust model, and we're giving customers tools to enable that. Separating, identity and role and permission and all those things. We're leaning in on the TPN, and we've also got people working closely on CSAP. So we're committed not just to security in general, but also some of the industry-specific security initiatives that are out there.
Foundry's approach so far to security, right, is always to be quite agnostic and flexible, right? Like we allow our customers to implement whatever kind of user management, user identity management, et cetera, systems they want on top of our software. And we make sure it plays quite well in lots of different environments. But having a standardized security protocol like CSAP is really helpful to us, because the more standardized these kind of systems become, the more we can, test against them, build against them, make sure they work really well in our tools, which is harder to do when it's a really fragmented set of approaches that are out there.
To have a truly zero trust software environment, the applications have to be containerized, because we do this with billions of users on a number of the applications that we built at Google over the years, things like YouTube and Google Search and other things. So to be able to scale that means everything has to run in containers, which means that if you're going to establish this level of trust in things, everything has to be containerized to do that. And then you can have these automated processes in there to secure that. And then if a file is left out in the open somehow in an unencrypted bucket, it's impenetrable at that point, because the systems that it talks to or came from all have to be authenticated. And again, it has to be invisible to the user. It should just be seamless.
We agree that really we don't want any of our customers to be constrained by perimeter security. When we're talking about the studios, really what that means is a limiting of access to innovation, access to tools, and ultimately access to people, right? Because when we talk about zero trust, it's really a matter of we want to enable our customers to work with whoever they want to work with, wherever they are. We were recently in EMEA having roundtable conversations with over 200 media executives, from streaming networks to big brands to studios across EMEA. 200 media executives, and we asked the question, how many in the room have 100% on-prem workforce today? And not a single hand was raised.
Our support from a CSAP perspective and helping those organizations understand fundamentally the right way to implement those security protocols is really, really key. From my standpoint, one of the things I have come to rely on more than anything else from the cloud is that I'm taking a proactive approach to cybersecurity all up. I'm taking it from beyond the perimeter to every workflow, zero trust framework, and I'm realizing those benefits all up in the fact that I'm losing less content, it's more secure than it's ever been, and we're helping our customers really drive that from a foundational perspective, from a documentation perspective, and an on the ground support process perspective.